Repair companies are seeing an increase in calls to deal with flooding in people's homes. It's an issue that can cause people health problems if not taken care of. ABC 17's Layla Mitchell is live after talking to health experts on the dangers of mold exposure. Layla, they told you mold exposure can cause serious breathing problems.
Yeah, Lucas, MU nurse practitioner Cindy Rose told me for some people, mold exposure can be extremely serious, and if you experience flooding, you should check for mold. Now, for some people, your symptoms can show up right away, while others can take weeks or months to show up. It is not uncommon for mold to form inside of a home or business, as many see flooding issues from this weekend's storms.
In this area, considering how much flooding we've had and we're having now, it is something to be concerned about.
MU nurse practitioner Cindy Rose told me a lot of people who experience exposure to mold may not even know it's happening.
You can present like pretty typical allergy symptoms or cold with a runny nose, a slight cough, maybe some nasal congestion.
Rose said other common symptoms are persistent headaches and fatigue. Long exposure to mold can result in asthma, pneumonia, severe lung infections, and even death.
The mold spores can actually get into your lungs and cause some very serious damage.
Mold can take as little as 24 to 48 hours to form inside of a home after a flood. ServPro has had over 150 calls for flood damage over the weekend, and they have seen a lot of mold damage. I reached out to ServPro today to see how people can prevent mold from growing inside of their homes.
Moving contents from a wet area, blocking up any furniture, taking curtains away from the water, really just getting any contents out of the water.
Heisel says it is important to get items in your home as dry as fast as possible to reduce mold damage. And Heisel told me there's only so much someone can do to prevent mold or flood damage, and if the problem persists, it's important to reach out to a professional company for help. For now, reporting live in the newsroom, Layla Mitchell, ABC 17 News.
Layla, thank you.
I want to bring in Dr. Perry Wilson from Yale University of Medicine to talk more about this. Good morning, Doc. Talk about mold. We know it's common, but we're talking about a larger scale. What exactly does mold do when it's in the air like this and in your home throughout it?
Hi, Cheyenne. Thanks for having me. Yeah, we know what mold is. We've seen it on our bread and on, old fruit and stuff like that. But the scale of this is just orders of magnitude higher. Mold is going to grow in humid conditions, warm conditions. You have about 72 hours from the onset of mold growth to get everything that has mold on it out of the house, or it will just continue to grow in those conditions. And of course, Florida is perfect mold growing environment. So this is a real second disaster that a lot of these people are facing after the first.
What types of symptoms should people be looking out for? And then my second question to that one, exposure to mold, is there a certain amount that you're exposed to before it becomes a big problem?
Yeah, well, it depends on the person a little bit. There are over 100 different types of mold that can grow in the homes that have adverse health effects on people, but the symptoms are typically allergic in nature. They can cause some wheezing, and for people with asthma, worsening asthma, runny nose, sneezing, sinusitis, cough, that sort of thing. Although in people who have immune suppressing conditions, they can actually cause life-threatening infections. More mold is generally worse, but some people are more sensitive than others. If you're in a situation, though, where you can smell that musty smell, that wet basement smell, that is the smell of mold. Even if you can't see it, it's there. You want to be aware of that and start remediation as soon as you possibly can.
And what about you as a homeowner? Can you go back into your home and just start disinfecting and cleaning it? Does that eliminate the risk at all, or do you need pros to come out there and help you with it?
You're really going to need pros. You can only disinfect non-porous surfaces, plastics and things like that, where the mold can't get in. But all those porous surfaces, the mattresses, the drywall, the clothing, all that stuff, no amount of disinfectant on the surface is going to get to all that mold. That all needs to be removed, generally cut out and destroyed. And that's going to require some professional help.
Oh, so many things they have to deal with, trying to rebuild and put their lives back together. Yet another thing they have to work towards and work through. Dr. F. Perry Wilson, thank you so much for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
Do you have black mold in your house? And if you do, how would you even know? And what would it do to your health?
Well, tonight, the Let Joe Know team shows you the hidden signs and how one Valley mom made a bold decision to protect her child. It's a story you won't see anywhere else.
He was always had a fever. At the time, Veronica Vera Jackson's son Anthony was just 1.
And he was always coughing, and we were always at the doctor's.
And not doing well. She says in just a few months.
He had 7 ear infections.
But why?
Every time we're outside, though, he's better than inside the house.
A friend suggested mold. Veronica was renting at the Autumn Creek Apartments in Chandler, says she did have water leaks. When they opened her wall,
all insulation fell out, and it was covered in black.
Veronica had mold testing done by 3 companies. All 3 reports recorded thousands of Stachybotrys spores, also known as black mold.
We gave them the reports, and the manager there said that she has to look into it.
Veronica says owners never admitted there was an issue. She contacted the city of Chandler, Senator McCain, the governor, the Department of Public Health. No help. Since Anthony had tested positive for mold allergies, Veronica moved out, broke the lease, and let me know. Her penalties grew to $3,200.
That's now on my credit, and that's not fair at all.
I would not want to be in this environment.
We took the findings to nationally known mold expert Michael Bittner, whose business, Respiracare Analytical, analyzed one of the results. Surprisingly, there is no federal standard for acceptable mold levels. Still, Bittner says
these levels are abnormally high.
He says some mold is common in most homes. And while he can't comment on Anthony's health, Bittner says generally,
I would think someone exposed to these levels would probably have symptoms.
Autumn Creek owners PEM Real Estate Group had offered Veronica $500 and a different apartment if she agreed to hold the owners harmless for future claims. She said no. For months, we tried working with PEM and their attorney and got nowhere. While Anthony still has asthma, Veronica says he is much better, and she never regrets her decision to leave.
Joe Ducey here live now. Veronica's waited a long time. Finally, yesterday, she got word that her credit report, that the entry would actually be taken off, although she doesn't have any proof of that, so we're looking for it. You may be thinking right now, do I have mold in my house? Have I had a leak? Could it be in the ceiling or the drywall? Coming up at 6:30, I'm going to take you through the steps, how to look for the signs for mold and what to do if you find it. So for now, back to you guys. Well, guys, you wouldn't think it, that would be a big problem here, but in Arizona, not a lot of rain, you can still have mold issues in your walls, as you may know. And it's really surprising to find out how quickly this stuff can become a problem.
If you have a water leak and you find it on a Tuesday, don't wait till Saturday to repair it.
How many of us have unnoticed small leaks in the ceiling, the drywall? 48 hours is all it takes.
Now you've got a mold problem.
So national mold expert Michael Bittner says repairs need to be made quickly. Any mold could be a health concern, but it's Stachybotrys or black mold that gets the most attention, and in high concentrations could cause respiratory issues. Signs of a possible problem: sneezing, coughing inside the home, a strong musty smell, appearance of black spots. But Bittner says don't be fooled. He says mold
usually it'll have a 3-dimension, like a fluffy appearance to it, but so does soot.
Bittner agrees with the government. Not every home needs to be tested for mold. Mild detergent can clean bathrooms, but if you find it on paper products like drywall, it may be a bigger issue. He says testing is important to document for insurance, for doctors' concerns, in case you're buying a new home with a hidden problem.
And he says don't bother with those little inexpensive tests that you can find in some stores. He says most homes have some mold that may not be a problem. Those tests usually turn out to be positive. And if you're a renter, as the woman was earlier, we told her story, you need to let your landlord know in writing and give them 5 days to take care of the problem. We're going to have all this information. Go to abc15.com/letjoe know more on mold testing and what you should do about it.
Stephanie Goldfuss heads into what she thought would be a clean, dry storage facility. But inside, the furniture she stored while moving appears to be covered in mold.
So it's kind of growing to the floor.
We discovered some white stuff on our couch. I got the flashlight out and I noticed it was mold, white fuzz mold, all down both of our couches.
Now, mold really needs 2 things to start growing. One is darkness and the other is dampness, such as in a dark, wet basement. Well, Stephanie says she had both of them in her rental unit.
This is a small amount of water that has not gone away.
On the concrete floor, what appears to be condensation. But it's not just her unit. We spoke with 2 other first-floor renters who claim to have found mold, too.
We noticed that there was mold all over the furniture in a couple of boxes.
Gary Hawley says he purchased insurance that was offered by the storage facility, but it covers only major disasters like fire or flood. Does it cover mold?
It does not.
Meantime, don't let this happen to you. Inspect a storage unit for signs of bugs, mice, and moisture before you move in. And make sure your homeowner's or renter's insurance will cover any losses. Stephanie may be out more than $2,000.
My husband works hard to provide for our family, and
we lost our furniture.
Bottom line, before you sign a contract, go over a storage unit with a flashlight and check it carefully for bugs or mold. That way, don't waste your money.